Hello everyone, I'm Penros776 here for a new legendary and mythic banner. We're expecting a couple of units on... That isn't Elm. Okay, Veronica. Interesting. We were expecting Elm and Embla on this one, but no, I guess it's legendary Veronica. She is a Red Tome Cav. She is Wind Season. And you may also know someone on a different background here. Yeah, new computer. I haven't put my dark background across, so for the moment we're doing things on a light background. Don't worry about it. Unlike our background, however, legendary Veronica is armed with the Enclosing Dark. Accelerates special trigger, cooldown count -1. If you initiate combat or is not adjacent to an ally, grants attack speed plus... If you initiates combat or is not adjacent to an ally, grants attack speed +6 to units during combat, neutralizes effects that prevent units' follow-up attacks, and the following effects will occur during combat based on the number of foes within 2 spaces of target, excluding target. If it's 1, speed res -4, if it's 2, speed res -8, and foe cannot counterattack. Okay, and if unit initiates combat, unit can make a follow-up attack before foe can counterattack. Already, this seems like this is built as kind of a save killer by the looks of it. Just those last 2 effects. The condition for them triggering is foes within 2 spaces of target. Well, if you're in a save ball, yes, those exist. Any sort of ball team, any sort of team that's using supports in general, actually, but balls specifically are like the team for doing it. And what do you get if that is met? Well, foe can't make a counterattack. You know what skill armors can't run? Null Sea Disrupt. There's one exception. The only armor who can deal with counterattack negation is Ascendant Fjorm. Veronica's a red unit. Veronica's a red unit, and she's a red unit who's getting that free desperation effect as well. And what does the free desperation mean? Well, in Ascendant Fjorm's case, it means that Ice Mirror is only going to be able to save her from 1 hit, not both. Pretty good stats on this one as well. One thing to consider if you're preventing foes' counterattack, defensive stats don't really matter. So you can go all in on attack speed, and you can go all in on reducing foes' speed and res. And at max, it's like +6 attack, -8 res. That's like +14 attack total, and same goes for the speed swing as well. So that's some pretty serious firepower. She also has a PRF special, Enclosure. Boosts special damage by 25% of units' attack. If special triggers, neutralizes reduces damage by X% effects from non-special skills, neutralizes effects that inflict special cooldown charge -X on unit during combat. Okay, that is kicking it up one hell of a notch. I already pointed out the counterattack prevention. Add to that now, pretty quick, pretty powerful special. It's 25% attack, 2 cooldowns, so down to 1 cooldown with the slaying weapon. Shreds damage reduction. This is a big problem that tomes have. Veronica doesn't have it. She has a way through damage reduction and built-in tempo. If you add all of this together alongside the null follow-up in her weapon, so null follow-up, can't counterattack, quick special that does decent damage, damage reduction shred, tempo effect to get the special off through guard, those all together add to basically the entire kit you need to deal with save units at the moment. That's like this is probably going to be a sort of legendary arm level of save, slayer, tank, buster. So pretty strong altogether. And another thing that helps her more general use as well is that she's not relying on a speed check like Arm does to get her whatchamacallit, her hooly doodly, her I'll have it in a moment. Counterattack prevention off. She's not wind sweeping, she's not water sweeping. It's instead a how much support do you have check. So any units that are dodging it are... Well, I mean, they could still cause some problems, right? If you decide to run instead of save ball, just a save pair, like one melee tank, one fast saver, keep everyone else away, that could definitely stop her. But still, units that she's getting counterattacked by are units who have nowhere near as much support as a fully stacked save ball. In the A slot, attack speed catch 4 makes sense. As I said, you can build just attack and speed and it's all she needs. Why not? Speed res, far trace free. Again, very sensical skill. Not really much to comment on here. Far traces are one of the best B slots for ranged cav still, and hey, speed res -3. Why not, right? Those are the only 2 stats you need to reduce after all. In the C slot, however, we have something very exciting. Panic Smoke 4. After combat, inflicts attack speed defense res -3 and panic on target and foes within 2 spaces of target through their next actions, and grants foe penalty doubler to unit and allies in cardinal directions. And foe penalty doubler does what it says on the tin, but it interestingly is a bonus. Not a debuff, so that's being applied to Veronica and Veronica's allies in cardinal directions, which I guess is actually kind of weird. Like, looking at the first half, okay, they upgraded Panic Smoke by making it apply debuffs as well as panic. That makes sense. If the enemy has no buffs, then applying panic to them is kind of pointless. It's a bit of a waste of a skill. Now, at the very least, proccing Panic Smoke is going to have some effect no matter what, even if the enemy has nothing on them beforehand. Still, foe penalty doubler, being applied to Veronica herself, okay, she can maybe benefit from that if she gets danced. It's not going to come into effect on the first combat, though. Allies in cardinal directions is, well, applying it to allies as well is good. The cardinal directions check is a bit interesting, because how often are allies going to be in specifically cardinal directions, right, the ones that you want to attack next? Kind of a tricky condition there, but still it's a very useful looking skill, and I guess it's also far more effective using smokes the classic way, back when attack smoke was the C slot of choice for your Omni tanks, your Brave Ikes, etc. This can be very much used that way, because if you're enemy phasing, you can use your Smoke 4 to apply panic and put foe penalty doubler on your tank, and then they'll get the benefit of foe penalty doubler on every combat in enemy phase. Now, I say this, there is one specific thing to note here. You don't actually need to put Panic Smoke 4 on your tank to do this. You can actually run it on a completely different unit and just use the cardinal directions check to put it on your right tank. So interesting little thing there as well. All in all, I think this is a pretty good unit. We've seen how strong Legendary Arm is, and this feels like she's filling the same sort of niche. Let's check her animations. Oh yeah, she's very animated. Oh, that's cool, actually. The light sort of spelling out the Emblean sigil there. She is, of course, a pair-up legendary, because they all are at this point. So yeah, 33, and then...
Enough of you.
Let's see how much this is. 50, so that's pretty decent attack stat, I think. And then Embla, God of Closure. She is, I assume, our mythic. Yes, a Dark Season mythic, res boosting. Why are we here? Why aren't we going into a skill?
No egress.
I think I just saw something very silly happen. Did you guys see that? I'm not sure, but it looked to me an awful lot like she just transformed there. Which I'm pretty sure Veronica is not a beast unit, last time I checked. So let's see if her kit says anything about that. Her weapon, the Enclosing Claw. She is a red beast flyer, which, I mean, makes sense. You probably already knew that. Accelerate special trigger, cooldown count -1. At start of combat, if a unit's HP is greater than or equal to 25%, grants attack speed def res +5 to unit during combat. Inflicts penalty on foes' attack speed def during combat equal to number of foes within 3 columns or 3 rows centered on unit times 3, max 9. Neutralizes effects of inflict special cooldown charge -X on unit. And also, if the number of foes within 3 columns or 3 rows centered on unit is greater than or equal to 2, neutralizes effects that guarantee foes' follow-up attacks and inflicts special cooldown charge -1 on foe per attack during combat. You think we're done? There's more, because at start of turn, if unit is adjacent to only beast or dragon allies, or not adjacent to any ally, unit transforms. And because she's a flying beast, if she transforms, she gets 1 extra tile of movement, and she gets attack +2. Interesting. Okay, so nothing about the transformation in there is different. But I mean, first thing I'm seeing here, this is a pretty bruisery looking unit, honestly. She's got the Spectrum +5 on a really simple HP condition. She also has on that interesting for big cross condition, so long as there's at least 3 enemies in there, which, I mean, there's always going to be 1, but you can go up to 3. So 1 enemy, it's already attack speed defense res +5 to unit and attack speed def -3, so a total basically Spectrum +8. 12, 13, 14 is going to be where that caps out at, with 3 enemies in that zone, which is pretty easy to get, because again, that's a huge damn zone, and naturally the way that units are laid out, in almost any situation, if you're attacking into someone, any supports they have are going to fall into that zone as well. So that's a pretty massive stat swing, a Spectrum 14. That's a kind of, honestly, Arcane Grima style stat swing. But then it also has more. It has a tempo. Okay. It has, if there's 2 foes in the area, it also has the defensive half of null follow-up, and it has guard. So this very much feels like less of a nuke, although she does have the stat to presumably be a nuke, and she has the tempo to get those big specials off. But there's actually an intention in here for her to survive combats, which maybe has a position as a Gale Force unit, honestly. I mean, she doesn't have any natural special acceleration, but she does have tempo and she does have slaying, and she can take a couple melee fights, presumably. So interesting there. The special they've actually given her is Draconic Aura, which is, I mean, sure, it's great, but just from what I've seen so far, I'd probably go Gale Force, because any of you who've played with Flying Beasts are honestly great Gale Force units. Having 3 tiles of movement, but having it be flying movement so you're not stopped by terrain, is just really good for Gale Force. In the A slot, attack speed clash 4 makes sense, very high mobility unit. She's not going to be able to get the 4 spaces of movement pretty easily, but she is going to be able to do 3 spaces a lot, which is going to add up to attack speed +10 and neutralizes penalties to attack and speed. So a pretty decent choice there. The B slot, Beast Agility 3. What kind of beast ability is this? Removes the condition to transform. Okay, so that's what was going on there. And if unit speed is greater than foe speed, neutralizes effects that prevent units' follow-up attacks during combat. Here's a question, who wants this? Well, I'm sure quite a few beasts want this, but the main thing I'm thinking is, okay, so your Gale Force beasts obviously love this. You've got the half of null follow-up that you care more about for Gale Force, and Gale Force positioning to get your beast units transformed is pretty tough to begin with, especially if you're using non-beast supports with them. So units like Naysala, units like Valoria, and honestly there's a couple of beast infantry units as well who can be pretty good Gale Forces with the tempo effect their transformation gives. I'm looking at Aska and Ash to a lesser extent. All are very, very good potentially at Gale Forcing. That being said, in terms of your more defensive beasts, and I'm specifically thinking armored beasts here, on the one hand, you really want them to transform, and getting that transformation off in an armor style team is very hard due to the very specific positioning you've got to do to make it work. Again, though, that transformation is super valuable because that's free distant counter. That is what's freeing up your A slot for a huge amount of skills. But you know what else is really important for those armored beasts? Their B slot fighter skills are core to the armor beast game plan, or well, all armor's game plan really, but armored beasts especially. And if you cut them out of the picture, and you're doing that just to replace it with what's basically guaranteeing your distant counter and then null follow-up, which are a slow unit you're not really getting anything out of, I don't think that's going to be too worthwhile on them, but it does have a niche. Cool. Anyway, enough talking about that. PRF C slot. Severance. I hope you're getting paid well for that Severance. At start of turn, inflicts undefended, new status, and feud, new status, on foes within 3 columns or 3 rows centered on unit. No stat check. At start of turn, if a foe is within 3 columns or 3 rows centered on unit, neutralizes any penalty, excluding penalties inflicted at start of turn, and grants dodge to unit. So yeah, doubling down on the bruisery nature of things here. Embla is going to be a dodge tank as well. She has that speed-based damage reduction, which is exceptionally rare for flyers to be able to get. So yeah, all the things that already made her tanky, she's also running in with 40% damage reduction. Very cool. And you can't stick penalties to her across turns. The excluding penalties inflicted at start of turn thing, I think, refers specifically to the way that effect timings work at the start of the turn. At the moment, there aren't really any units that imply penalties at the start of your phase. They mainly do it at the start of the opposing team's phase. So the only place where this is really going to kick in any capacity in terms of not neutralizing penalties is A, if she's enemy phasing, or B, if she's in summoner duels, because both phases happen at the same time. Let's find out what these statuses do, though. Undefended. Unit cannot be protected by Savior through their next action. Was I saying that Veronica was an anti-save unit? Well, no, this is a real anti-save unit. And Feud disables all ally skills excluding units during combat through unit's next action. Okay, so that's a full-on, like a debuff version of getting Bramimonded. If you've got the Feud status on you, everyone attacking into you is a Bramimond. But still undefended. Yeah, a lot of people have been asking for a skill that completely shuts down saves, and I mean, a skill that does that unconditionally would be awful for the game. At this point, they've done too much to let you beat saves in other ways, that if you could just unconditionally shut them out, the nukes we've got left over would just obliterate whatever's left once saves are removed. This isn't unconditional, this has a condition. That being said, it's a pretty easy condition to meet. 3 columns or 3 rows, again, very big area, and any units in that are getting both of these debuffs. Notably, no stat check, but you can dodge it. You can dodge it, and that means, while I think the stonks for saves in general are going pretty heavily down with this banner, hit and run potentially going up. If you can hit and run the team that Embla's on, and then the place that you run to is outside of that big cross, then even if they come over and attack you, you can still safe ball like normal. Also has no real effect on Gale Forcing, I say, although Feud could potentially cause issues with some of those strats, maybe. But Gale Forces aren't really relying on saviors. Other thing to note, I say you can dodge it. Dark Season, there is no limit on duplicates. You could, if you really wanted to, run 2 Emblas, because the Avarice defense map is 6 tiles across, so with both of them covering 3 columns, you then have 4 units left over to be able to do, for example, the classic style of Cav-line, except save just does not work against it anymore. Obviously, safe defense will still work, but if you wanted to know what living in a meta where safe defense was invented before saves... Was it invented before saves? I can't remember. If you want to know what living in that sort of meta would feel like, you can. So that's going to be funny, read terrifying, for people to deal with. And actually, speaking of duplicates, I've just thought of something else horrifying. Chaos Season. Like, if shutting down saves on offense teams, so the offense teams can't just plonk and save ball, is one thing. Defense teams don't have a choice where they get to sit, or whether they do have a choice, but you get to react to that choice. Meaning, on seasons where you can run Embla on offense, read Chaos Season, you now have a tool to just unsave their save. And okay, with recent developments, Chaos Season had been getting a little less hellish. I'm saying it right now, this is going straight back to maximum hell in terms of making a Chaos Season defense that can actually secure wins. The biggest threat on Chaos Season is still Duo Force, running stuff like Ninja Lin, Duo Peony, Ninjorin, those sorts of units who get insane action economy out of their duo and harmonic skills. And the one saving thing we had against them was the ability to, at the very least, make getting those skills online way harder by forcing them to chip through a save first. Can't double save, but you can still force them to go through one save. You don't normally fast save you'd want, because again, Ninja Lin very good at sniping backliners, Ninjorin likewise. They can just turn off that save. They can just go straight for your harmonic units, completely go around the save, in fact probably leave the save alive as the last unit so that they can dance around their armored ability to get pots. And considering that we've already decided Embla already makes a very strong Gale Force unit as well. And she's flying. So yeah, that's going to be rough to deal with. That's going to be rough. Well, yeah, let's give up on winning Chaos Defense for the moment and instead think about how fun Dark Season is going to be with Embla and Medeus and Yoon all on the same team. Beautiful. Let's take a look at her animations, shall we? There she is, massive bat creature attacking with sound waves because bats use echolocation. Fun fact. I also really like her transformed form design. It's very monstrous, almost, which I think's cool as hell. Who else is on the banner? Bramamond, Hell, Saros, Dagger, Micaiah, Shida, Nana, Ymir, Celica, that's Ascendant Celica, Deirdre, and that's all of them. Let's wait till it gets to the little circle, and I'll do the color by color analysis. Yeah, here we go. So, first things first, I think there's one very good color on this banner. One very good color. Any guesses what color it might be? You don't get time to guess, it's red. Veronica, Embla, we've already gone over what they do in this video. They both look like pretty valuable additions. And then the third color on red is Legendary Nana, who, let's be honest, is a Thracia unit, so you've got to pull for her. But also, besides that, is still a really unique unit in terms of what she's capable of. Cutting through damage reduction is fairly common on ranged units. On melee units, it is still exceptionally rare. And on top of that, not only can Legendary Nana do that, Legendary Nana also has the benefit of being the only unit in the game who can deal with damage reduction specials. I'm talking your Hardy Fighter nonsense, which admittedly, Hardy Fighter nonsense might be dropping down a bit in terms of popularity with this new Embla going on, but she can still deal with it. And she is still the only unit out there who has anything to deal with it. So all three of those units are exceptionally strong, and that meets my criteria for pulling. I've always said on these banners, you have to make sure you want all three units in the color you're sniping for. Otherwise, the game will prank you. And here is a situation where I could not want these units more. Absolutely brilliant. The other colors, honestly, I put blue and colorless at about the same level. They both have a couple of decent units, but then one who's kind of letting the side down. In colorless's case, Bramamond, they are just not kind of performing as well as they used to at the moment. In terms of being a ranged dark mythic, they are just flat out nuked by Yoon. Right, Yoon has become an exceptional powerhouse of a unit with her remix, her refine, and Bramamond just can't compete, and it looks like he's getting competed out of the meta even further because, you remember what I said about Embla? Yeah, if people are getting caught by Embla's feud effect, Bramamond's PRFC slot isn't even special anymore because everyone is able to just feud the same as they do. So, yeah, rough times for Bramamond. I mean, he's still not a worthless pickup necessarily, because there's a chance that he's going to get a refine or a remix that changes stuff, but that's in the future, not the present. Ascended Celica, on the other hand, very strong unit. The whole miracle thing she's got going on, as well as having most of the kit required to chop through tanks, very nice. Legendary Micaiah, interesting sort of ranged bruiser. The effective damage on her is still very impactful, but doesn't quite have everything to make it into the top tier necessarily, I'd say. Blue, likewise, you've got Legendary Shida, who's very useful with her Vantage shenanigans. All around cool unit. Again, not quite top tier because there are a couple of strategies that just chop through her, kind of ignore whatever she's got going on, and then she dies. Legendary Deirdre is a very high utility unit at the moment because there are very strong dragons running around in the metagame. What do you do when you see very strong dragons running around? You call for the dragon effective unit, and there she is. So that's definitely also a good pickup. And then in the third slot, again letting the side down, Seiros, who for a long time was a very, very valuable pickup as the only anima extra slot unit who was actually vaguely decent. When it was over a year of competition between her and Ota as the only two units you could run in your extra slot, when that was the case, Seiros was a really vital pickup. However, last Mythic Banner, they released a new anima unit who is actually good. And so, what's really the point of Seiros anymore, right? Again, there's potential that a remix in the future will help her out, but since she is a extra slot unit, there's a lot of other units who have to get remixed first before we even get to her, so that's a long way off still. Lastly, green. Hell is interesting, but again, not really the crux of your strategy anymore. Like, has some very cool skills, but the miracle can't be relied on anymore. And the better C slot, the better flyer C slot, cool and all, again, not something that like can't be replaced. She is still a defense mythic. She does still have value in terms of reducing your lift loss, but not really a super high chase target. Ymir, another interesting cool unit, but again, for people who've actually used her, kind of underwhelming. The Drive Miracle is a neat idea. It falls off in the most of the time when you're relying on it because of the pretty tight HP condition on it, you end up dying anyway. Dagger is probably the most useful unit on green, partially because you get more scoring generally in a season out of offense mythics than defense mythics unless you're losing really badly. Plus, of course, the old fact that offense mythics are on the bonus unit rotation, and having a bonus mythic is pretty huge for just being able to ignore bringing bad units onto your team, possibly if you haven't pulled for that season's other bonus units, right? Having a unit who's always going to be on that rotation is just a nice thing to have. So that's my color by color rundown. I'm going to be sniping red and ignoring the rest of the orbs. Not sure what my backup color is going to be, but I do have a lot of orbs to spend, so looking forward to getting some of these units. How about you guys? What are you going to pull? And what do you think of these units, their impact on the metagame? Are you looking forward to them? Are you terrified of the havoc they'll wreak? Well, I'll check if there's anything else coming up here, but I doubt there really is. Of course, Celestial Stone. Thanks everyone for watching. I will see you all next time, especially if you subscribe so that you don't miss it. See you then. Penrost out.